Ugh. As a remnant from Halloween, I guess it's appropriate when I get to look at something that I don't particularly am looking forward to. Yes, before continuing with All for One, I guess it's time to actually look properly at the Ratchet and Clank 6-issue miniseries, which was quickly constructed as a tie-in between A Crack in Time and All for One. As mentioned, A Crack in Time was supposed to be the end of the franchise, again, regardless of what we think about it. But Sony was like, nah, it actually sold a lot, got critically, darlings in terms of reviews. So let's continue to milk this cow if we can, shall we? So TJ Fixman was quickly brought up to speed in order to think of something to fill in the gaps. And to give it credit to Sony, while these comics were actually properly made on physical format, thanks to the DC's Wildstorm imprint, they were also distributed digitally for the PlayStation Digital Comics service, which was available for the PlayStation Portable. So, if you wanted, you did have a relatively easy way to access them. Unfortunately, not anymore because the PSP online services are dead, but what can you do about it? The comics are very easy to find online anyway, so it's not too big of a deal. So what's the deal with this? Again, it's a 6-issue miniseries written entirely by TJ Fixman. The cover arts, as we will see, are deceptive because they are made by the official illustrators of the concept art of the game, Creature Box. However, because that cannot actually sustain an entire, comic issue, they needed someone else to do the art. And they got a person called Adam Archer, which I cannot find anything else in terms of a career. I'm sure that this person has worked in other, ambience, probably DC Comics, if I had to be honest. But as we will see soon, I'm not particularly fan of the artwork in this comic. So we'll have to see just how much of the damage is.
It's
So
funny you mentioned DC actually, since this is a Wildstorm comics.
yeah,
While
I
Wildstorm
mentioned
were notable for being video game heavy with a lot of their installments, I find it especially funny that they would later literally get folded into the DC multiverse later on.
because the New
So
52 happened. Again, this was not too different from what was happening at the time because, as I mentioned while we were doing the earlier Ratchet and Clank games, Sony had a bit of an habit, and also when we did Resistance, Sony had a bit of an habit of having a couple of tie-ins. There's an Uncharted miniseries, which I haven't even bothered to read for very obvious reasons. There was the Resistance comic mini-series issues, which, as I told you, is not really important for the purpose of a read. Sly, a couple of Sly comics that tied a couple of things in, including one that acted as a prequel to 3, for example. The entire section with McSweeney, that is summed up at the beginning of 3, that was an entire part of a comic that they basically could not put in the game and had to cut away. So it was inevitable for also this to happen. And again, they took the advantage of that to bring back a couple of characters from the original tetralogy to bridge in the gap between the old and the new, to be fair. So good on TJ Fixman for at least trying to work with what he had instead of just, giving up on the franchise and not giving a shit about. So,
I'll
audience,
admit, having experienced the story, part of me is kind of baffled that they didn't just make this thing its own video game, because this plot does feel like something that could have
I
been
mean,
a
again, it's
game.
a script written by the then game's writers, so it kind of makes sense that it could work. It's kind of similar to how Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash was originally supposed to be a movie, but when the movie was cancelled, the script was good enough to actually be converted into a comic, so why not, you know?
Speaking of which, I looked up Adam Archer. He's done some other stuff like the Supergirl comic that lasted from 2005 to 2011, right in time for the New 52. He did artwork for the Batman Arkham comics, yes, based off of the
We'll get
Batman
to those
Arkham
eventually,
games.
like I said.
So yeah, basically this guy seems to be kind of a bit of a DC regular. I guess he was one of the artists who kind of jump shipped over to Wildstorm before coming back to DC at the
Okay, I
merge.
found his
He
official
did
social media account. Apparently worked, for 15 years at this point for Marvel and DC. I'm sure that he has plenty of good work under his resume, but like I said, the artwork for these issues is questionable to me. But we'll get into that in a second. So, audience, you will get to see one issue per day to streamline things about and to give us enough ample time to actually give a look at what is about. As far as I know, at least for now, I don't want to jinx it. Copyright in regards to comics should not be as stingy as it is to movies and video games, depending on who the owner is. Manga tends to be a bit more dickish on the matter because of scanning of recent issues that has kind of fucked up the industry a bit. But this should be fine. It's a miniseries that nobody remembers anymore anyway. So, like I said, one issue per day, so let's jump right into the first, shall we?
Oh boy, November 10th, my birthday.
Well, these were published between September 8th, 2010 and February 16. I'm not sure why this was. I guess the physical edition was published on November 10. Anyway, like I said, the covers are, ironically enough, the best part of the comics because, again, they're done by Creature Box. The concept artist for the franchise at the time was also the one for Resistance. So the artist captures immediately the features and the angles of the character. Clank maybe has his eyes a bit too big, also compared to his head, but I like Ratchet's angular design, less, puffy of a face, giving a bit of a trade back to the edgy part of the early parts of the series, with our robot in the background.
Honestly, this looks almost like it was basically a video game cover,
I
just
think some
sort
of
of
these artworks
laminated
was
into
reused
a
for All
form.
for One. I don't remember the details about it.
I mean, he should turn around because it looks like he's about to be eaten from behind while he's busy showing off.
Unless those
Which
are
real heroes are too cool to look behind themselves.
unless that's the ruins of a robot where they just killed the Dweebs, to be fair. But let's do what Dweeb suggested and turn around the page, and that's where the problems begin. So we begin with the first issue, which is titled Years of War. Basically, each title is a panel of some kind. Some of these, believe it or not, will have titles that are references to pending titles that All for One had. More on that when we get to that game. So, we start back on planet Veldin, Kaisil Plateau, in the Solana Galaxy. So Ratchet and Clank, after the events of A Crack in Time, went home. And we start with Ratchet, what else? Working on a vehicle because he's the mechanic TM.
Alright, just a few more adjustments. There, that ought to do it. One perfectly restored Skyburst 8000. What do you say we light her up?
Perhaps we should activate the magnetic stabilizers.
Stabilizers? Clank, pal, every time we turn those on, I have to recalibrate the avionics system. Besides, we checked the converters, swapped out the warp capacitor, and flushed the cooling hub. She's ready. I stake my pilot's license on it.
Clank is
And
not
that apparently does
amused.
not amuse Clank.
Ratchet has to have a bit of a weird look, and then oh my god. Well, first read the lines
Okay,
over.
take my theoretical pilot's license on it.
Okay, time out because we really already need to start to talk about this. Jesus! Look at Ratchet's face in these panels. The proportion of the eyes, the expression of the face, it's like it's the uncanny valley effect. It's like I'm watching a playthrough of Spider-Man 2 except with these characters.
Not only that, but Clank. I get the feeling Clank was never meant to be viewed from the front because, ironically, Ratchet looks way too rigid while Clank looks way too animated facially. Like, it's supposed to be the other way around. Clank's the cold, rigid robot, and Ratchet's supposed to be the more animated person. Like, it's not even just that the face feels off. Like, Ratchet's face looks kind of like that weird hodgepodge between human and animalistic in, say, something like the Cats movie. That is not a compliment.
Again, uncanny valley effect. But let's turn around and see if things improved, shall we?
Alright, let's see. Artificial Horizon Altimeter. Aha! Forward thrusters!
And with the press of the red button, yeah.
Ah, crap. Clank!
God
Okay,
damn it, Ratchet.
Bit of a nitpick. I don't think Ratchet's ever full on said crap in the series before.
Yes,
Maybe I'm
yes,
misreading.
I've heard him a couple of times doing that kind of snark, specifically using that word.
Let Ratchet say fuck.
So yeah, that didn't go so well.
Again, to
So
be
much so that
fair,
it's
pretty much the standard opening for a Ratchet and Clank game. If anything, it's kind of a callback to Tools of Destruction to an extent.
whoa. Ooh.
Ratchet, are you alright?
Yeah, I'm good. Guess the forward and undercarriage controls got crisscrossed, huh? Just do me a favor and keep those stabilizers on, okay? Wah, wah.
Although also his boots. Now we're getting into realistically human boots where Ratchet were a bit more cartoony. Like I can see the laces on.
I
Anyway,
have a theory. I wonder if Adam Archer, who may have been a bit new to the video game field here, got references, but never full-on model sheets for how the characters are supposed
maybe
to
just
look.
strictly
So,
based around the script that TJ Fixman wrote, written.
as I will say, this feels like Ratchet and Clank being adapted into an art style more befitting of, well, one of the, I'd say, earlier 2000s of DC Comics, where some of them kind of had a bit of a crisscross between American and Japanese art styles and whatnot.
I'm getting it way ahead of ourselves, but one thing that I'm glad that at least the movie did not screw up was the art style for the characters. At least they got that one thing right. Anyway, let's turn
Anyway, on the
around
next
and who
page,
would like to...
a familiar face.
Attention, citizen! Remain calm, we're here to assist you. Behold, your savior has arrived in the form of...
Please don't be.
Galactic President Quark!
I changed my mind. Turn them off.
Wah, wah,
And
wah.
Ratchet has a weird.
Yawn.
I
Like,
mean,
it's supposed to be sarcastic, the two combo panel of delivery and punchline, Ratchet look at it and then says, fuck this shit, classic. That I can get to an extent.
This is one of those things you do have to take with comics, and the idea with a comic is it's essentially one frame of animation, essentially. You try and pick the best expressions to go on. Most of the times, artists seem to know that, but weirdly enough, every now and then again, you get that artist who seems to be obsessed with the awkward in-between
Yeah, I know, right?
motions you see in animation, which
It's
I don't even
it's
get
like
why.
I know that okay, it's a bad comparison right now, but it will become more clear as we go on. It's kind of like those in between frames in the Legend of Zelda CDI games. That's kind of the vibes that I'm getting. Turning around,
So-
Ratchet and Clank have been actually rescued, or Quark is actually visiting their bunker, and we even get a poster of Secret Agent Clank in the background. Also, if you pay attention on the left, Alistair Asimov's staff. That's pretty cute, along with the cricket from A Crack in Time.
It is interesting to see Ratchet and Clank's more humble home, not even their big fancy apartment that we saw at the start of 2. I guess these two are really just actually content with, living life small again,
This is
essentially.
because of the story arc they want to introduce in these comics, and then they want to expand upon a bit in All for One, but all in due time.
So, president of the Polaris Galaxy, huh? How's the search for Nefarious going?
Not so good, I'm afraid. Satellite feeds confirmed that Lawrence teleported him off the ship before crashed, but so far they've been impossible to track. Yeah, that's another thing that I will
Not what
elaborate.
we saw in the game.
I will elaborate this more in All for One, but basically, the executives at Sony told, you have to make sure that Nefarious leaves. TJ Fixman was like, but I killed him. Find a way to fix that. Let's retcon the shit out of that.
Sorry, TJ Fixman, you made him too good, and now, as is typical of a supervillain in comics, we can't let him die. He's the most iconic one.
Are you here to ask for our assistance?
Nah, the administration can handle them. Actually, there's a more pressing matters I need your help on.
Here we go. Clank, I'll be in the garage.
Perhaps we should listen to Captain Quark. The universe could be in danger.
Of course it's in danger. It's always in danger. But just once, can't the universe take care of itself? We're supposed to be retired.
Jesus, Ratchet's face. First off,
It
it's...
looks like he's going crazy.
First off, it's President Quark, and I have a business card to prove it. Second, this is a bit of a bizarre situation. Unprecedented, really.
Bizarre. We once saved a giant clock responsible for controlling the space-time continuum. What could possibly be more bizarre than that?
We've been losing planets. Which, to
Oh,
be
god damn it,
fair,
it's Kingdom Hearts.
it is something that hasn't happened before. So, novelty concept for the franchise. What if planets actually start disappearing?
You lost a planet? How do you lose a planet?
4 planets, actually. And it's not that I lost them. I'm just not sure where they are.
Which planets are missing?
Terracnos, Sargasso, Cobalia, and Aranos. Pretty much all references.
Cute. Aranos? That's in the Bolgon galaxy. It isn't anywhere near Polaris.
Which means whatever is happening is not restricted to any one galaxy.
The entire universe is on alert. I got folks calling for my impeachment. Of course, a lot of them were from Terracnos, so that one kind of worked itself out. Jesus.
What is the Helios Project?
That's nothing. Completely unrelated. Top secret presidential stuff. While Quark
I
tells
see
the
we're in
audience
such
to
good
talk to the
hands.
hand.
Quark, if there is something you are not telling us...
I'm telling you everything I know. Planets are disappearing faster than my jeans socks, and no one knows why or how. With that face.
What about... what about Tawin? Is she alright?
She's fine. Every rock in the Nundak asteroid ring is well and accounted for. In fact, I'm sure she'd be happy to see you if you came back to help us out. What do you say? Also, they gave
Wink,
Quark
wink,
the sonic...
nudge.
They gave Quark the sonic mouth.
Sonics.
Why? Why?
Whoa.
What is wrong with this art?
You could talk, oh my god, what's wrong with your face?
I really have to imagine that Adam Archer was not given proper references to how these characters normally look because, again, I know he's rarely ever the sole artist in something, but I don't know. I feel like somebody with as much work as him should, know this stuff better, essentially.
Like, I can tell that things will improve as we get through the issues, but not that by much. Anyway, before Ratchet, with a mention of Tawin, has to think about it.
I can't. I've got a lot to do around here, and someone's coming by to see that skyburst in the morning.
And he goes away. What was that all about? Clanky
Well,
is
you see-
equally sad. So, that kind of adventure spirit at the end of a cracking time? Now we're starting to hit a bit of Blues Brothers 2000 syndrome. Thankfully, it will not stick that much, thank God.
So after Quark leaves off, Clank goes off to go talk to Ratchet.
While is he watching the safekeep that Asimov had with himself and Caden, Ratchet's father?
Quark just left.
Yeah, I saw. You understand, don't you, pal? I just don't want to do this anymore. I like the way things used to be. Back when I was just fixing ships, Ratchet, I seem to recall in the first game you wanted to get off of what you considered a
We're getting
relatively
into
backwater
Shrek 4
planet.
territory
Yeah,
of
but
I
TJ
miss the
Fixon
good
didn't
old
like that
days.
one, so...
Like, okay, I get that TJ Fixman came on later, but I think someone who's been around the series as long should, know the first game's plot, essentially.
I think he's trying to go a bit by the intro of the second game, where after defeating Chairman Blarg, the two just wanted to chill out and live out the rest of their days, what with the glory that they obtained then. Maybe that.
The problem is that he says he wants to go back to the days when he was just fixing ships, and no, he says he likes how they used to be. He didn't. It was kind of his life's mission to escape that kind of lifestyle. Again, I'm not saying that I can't buy that he would maybe yearn for some simpler times, but for him to say he wanted to go back to how things were, and yes, this was a problem in Shrek the Fourth, but I can at least chalk that up to Shrek really put his foot in his mouth when Fiona asked him the question and he was under stress. Here, nah, this seems to really posit the question that Ratchet wants to go back. It's not even just he wants a vacation or he wants some time to retire. No, he wants to go back to the old days, and
Oh, but
no.
don't worry, the stupidity of the phrases are not over for the immediate two.
Replacing a busted warp capacitor never saved someone's life.
That's a very stupid phrase, considering, depending on the circumstances, it literally can.
Maybe, but it never took one either.
That's equally stupid, because being careless can result in an explosion, killing someone. Like, TJ, buddy, what the hell is wrong with this?
I swear, it's a thing I see a lot of times whenever writers try to do the hero's retired, but they gotta get dragged back into duty thing. Like, I get it. It shouldn't be always that simple, but it shouldn't always be super hard, essentially. Like, as far as I can tell, also, not too much time has passed after Kraken time.
I don't remember if they ever state how much time has passed, but not that much, I can tell you. I would also like to focus a bit the attention on the fact that when Ratchet says about doing this never took a life either, we get a focus on Asimov's face. It's almost implying as if Ratchet's involvement with the stuff of the Great Clock is what killed Asimov, which, like, I don't know, man. Yes, it ultimately led to that, but it was a combination of Nefarious needed to be stopped, and Asimov decided to choose his own path. Yes, Ratchet feels a bit responsible for the events that happened at the end of a Kraken time, but no, I'm sorry. Like, this sense of guilt makes no fucking sense. But to be fair, a lot of times people, rank up sense of guilt, even when they don't have it. So maybe that's the angle we're going for.
My best guess is, like, Ratchet feels guilty about not just stopping Asimov, but feeling indirectly responsible for Asimov's death, which really does beg the question, Clank, maybe you should have at least assuaged Ratchet's guilt by telling him that, oh, by the way, Ratchet, in a past time, Asimov killed you and showed no remorse over it. Interesting, that butterfly effect, but I digress. Do what you have to, pal, but I'm staying here.
He would not end up staying there.
Elsewhere in the Solana Galaxy.
I give him 5 pages.
Alright, we're introduced here to the villain. Oh, interesting. Can someone please tell me the name of this planet?
Planet Veldin, sir. A lifeless, frivolous, dreadful rock, devoid of any real value.
Oh, you little fate, Yorn. Where you see the consequence, I see opportunity. Start the machine, we're taking it with us. And we see a bunch of things. Specific ship core and a dark matter on the right. I
was about to joke and say that's a dead ringer for Dark Energon from the Aligned continuity of
Well, we do know from Tools of Destruction and the Kraken Time to an extent that the Lombaxes were managed to build the Dimensionator thanks to dark matter technology, so, well, let's find out. Next page.
Attention, creatures of Veldin! Today is to become a historic day in the annals of whatever rock you scratch your pathetic history on. In just a moment, you will be emancipated from this pathetic galaxy. Emancipated being a relative term, seeing as how we're only going to force you into indentured servitude, but you get the gist. If you are pregnant, have a heart condition, or are prone to motion sickness, please lie down during the teleportation process. Our friendly warbots will be dispatched upon arrival to help ensure a smooth transition. Those who do not cooperate will be met with swift, albeit painful, death.
Whoa, the number 7 value deal got grim.
Bummer, dude.
On behalf of President Zog, I welcome you to the future!
Of course the villain is called Zog.
Zappy.
So yes, in typical Ratchet and Clank fashion, the entire galaxy is now indeed under siege, and
well, specifically Veldin gets enveloped by a space beam. For once we don't have a sky beam, Jova, so there you go.
And it envelops it in a sinister green glow.
At least it's not black goop.
So, Ratchet, you still sure about that retirement, buddy?
He has much choice in the matter this time.
What the? Daytime? When did that happen? It's like
Looking
Sonic
closely.
Unleashed, but in reverse.
Speaking of, a giant ball falls, and
Kaboom!
to be fair, standard sound effect at the very
Wait,
least.
hold on. So Ratchet was standing on what looked like a cliff, but now he seems to be on more of an overpass where the ball hits.
Space is warped
Great
and time is
continuity.
bendable.
And on the next page, it
From the
seems
ball,
that
it's a
that ball,
Saiyan. Oh, actually, no, it's a robot.
it does have the Saiyan colors, though. I don't suppose you're here about a Skyburst 8000, are you? And Ratchet promptly gets smacked through his house. Boom!
Ratchet, I believe we may be in trouble.
Why? Were you punched through a wall too?
I kind of like that they left the impression on the back of the hangar. That's pretty cute.
Neat.
Pardon me. It appears you have assaulted my friend. Solana Galactic Statute 61974-B clearly stipulates...
Pal, Clank, run!
And
Pew,
they get
pew,
zapped
pew.
more until Ratchet actually pushes properly the button on a contraption that actually activates the, I guess, soldering part of the hangar, which promptly zaps the robot. Good.
P.
I'm
That
sure
worked
it's
out.
not that sound effect. So, for the next page, Ratchet finds back his hover boots. I kind of like that they got the design of that right, at least. Plus also his other equipment that we'll see in the other panels, his Omni Wrench and a generic blaster. I will give credit, the comic justifies much better the idea why Ratchet is back to square one with his arsenal. I will give him that.
Yeah, it's pretty much they are attacked while he was in retirement mode, and they can just scrounge up the power-ups that they have at the moment. We're not going to be able to fight off all these guys ourselves. We have to get to the Planetary Defense Center. You drive.
And what will you be doing?
Ratchet activates his hover boots.
And the Omni Wrench.
Oh, never mind. I trust the modifications you made to this sled are legal.
Legal-ish. Now for it.
And fight scene,
scene.
basically. For being
Look
a generic,
alive.
for being a generic blaster, Ratchet is still packing a punch. To be fair, you can chuck it up to say, oh, it's the one that he had from a previous adventure, so it's leveled up enough.
Deep down, he's still a soldier. War never leaves a soldier's mindset.
Sure.
Look alive! We got incoming! And what's incoming?
More balls.
balls.
Ratchet, up ahead.
Break left! Break left!
And another
Yeah,
soldier emerges
more.
just in time for Ratchet to try to blast him a bit and try to hit him with the Omni Wrench, but it literally bounces off.
Whoa! Oh,
God.
this just isn't my day. I've
No
had
more
to
ammo.
gasp in pain so many times.
I know
Listen,
how that feels.
I know you're probably a bit ticked off seeing as how I shot some of your pals, but if I may,
He throws the weapon, which fun fact, this particular set of panels is actually on TV tropes for the throw the weapon bit.
cute. Well, I've got nothing.
Fair enough.
And he promptly gets a cannon aimed at him. Okay. Whew. Nice moves, pal.
Not nice enough.
Yeah, they're surrounded.
Do we have any more ships to throw at these guys?
With a very awkward smile. Hold your fire. I know these two. Bring them to me.
Saved by the villain. Thank
Literally.
goodness.
Oh, to be fair, again, they do something interesting with this villain compared to some of the previous ones, maybe or not. But let's check out the next page.
Why do you suppose they let us live?
Beats me. Maybe whoever's behind this wants to monologue for a little bit. Tell us what an evil genius he is before feeding us to a war grok or something. Doesn't matter. In 5 minutes, the Solana Galactic Rangers will swoop in and kablam!
Ratchet, I'm not sure anyone will be coming for us.
Come on. I know they're not the most competent bunch at times, but the Rangers are sworn to protect the entire Solana Galaxy.
That is my point. I'm not so sure we are in the Solana Galaxy anymore.
So, is there like an in-flight hologram film or...
No, they just get shot in space immediately.
Huh, no in-flight holo films. I'm out of here. I prefer running better.
Ratchet, I think you might want to see this.
What, did the Solana galaxy disappear?
Well, not all of it.
No way.
I can't
Well,
believe
we
this.
found Uranus.
Yes, but where are we? I do not recognize any of these star clusters.
God, you just know if this were a time travel plot, they would have included, I think you mean, when are we? Clank, I don't think we're in the Solana galaxy anymore.
Wop, wop, wop.
Somewhere over the rainbow.
And we see that
Next
the body is tractor beamed into a proper ship until it, in the next page, is actually, deposited. Please, do come in. It isn't every day we get to welcome the galaxy's most famous tool. Welcome to my galaxy. And we get a proper look at Artemis Zog, and I mean, I would argue he's not the most intimidating of the Ratchet and Clank villains so far, but hey, I don't think it's the worst either. I will say Autodestruct was a bit lamer in design. At least this guy got the jewelry for himself.
This guy looks like he got lost on the way to the next Jack and Daxter game.
Kinda, yeah, it looks like more like a villain from Jack 2, I will say. So, that's it for issue 1. Stay tuned for the next one tomorrow. See ya.
Bye.
See ya.